With Toy Story 5 now in cinemas, Pixar now has a total of 31 films. Can you believe that? 31. And I'm going to rank them all right now. Let's discuss. Hello and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new, then welcome on in. My name is Jay. In this video, we are going to be ranking all 31 Pixar films. I'm going to be using a tier maker that I found online. I've never done one of these kind of rankings before, so it should be quite fun. Just because I've got a film placed in a certain tier though, doesn't mean it is the right placement. I'm sure that you'll have a film that you think should be much higher or much lower compared to where I've got it. Again, you can just click on that link below, create your own tier ranking and share them with me. Share your thoughts down in the comment section down below as well, and let me know what you think of my own ranking. That is all I've got to say, apart from please do hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. That way you're notified when I post a new video. Again, numbers on the channel are continuing to grow, and I would love to have you join if you have not done so already. That is everything I think I've got to say before we get started, so why don't we actually get started and start things off with Toy Story, the first film that Pixar ever released in 1995. And if you've been watching my Pixar watch journey, which I did in preparation for Toy Story 5, which you might have seen on TikTok, it's J like the letter, or on my YouTube in the shorts section, you will know, and you might have also seen my Toy Story ranking that I just did, but you will know that I think that is a 5-star film. That is going in the S tier for me. Everything about it is just perfection. I think it does a great job of introducing us to, well, a new style of animation, first of all. The first ever film to be completely made in CGI from start to finish. Every character in it's got their own distinct charm and personality. I like how a lot of the jokes in the film are constructed around the toy's own functionality, whether that's Mr. Potato Head and his detachable parts or Etch-a-Sketch. We also have Sid as our villain, antagonist. A lot of people try to say that he's not the antagonist of the film and he's just misunderstood. Maybe so, there's an argument to be made there, but he does still fill that antagonistic role in the film. He is the one that is causing problems and attaching fireworks to toys and making all these weird hybrid creations that are very disturbing. Maybe not as disturbing as the dummies in Toy Story 4, but you know, I think there's an argument to be made either way. I think I talked about the animation. A lot of people say it's a bit outdated, it doesn't hold up well. Completely disagree. I think it still looks, you know, maybe not as good as modern day Pixar films. This is 30 years ago, but I still think the animation holds up quite well. So yeah, I don't think I've got any problems with the original Toy Story. What a fun film. Number 2 on this list, we have got A Bug's Life, obviously the second film that Pixar's ever made, because if you haven't seen, I'm obviously doing this in order from when the films were released. And this might be the first hot take on the list that a lot of people might disagree with. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let me know. Um, this A Bug's Life came right after Toy Story. It's obviously got a massive bar to reach, and I just don't think it reaches it, unfortunately, and like at all. I don't think I talked about Toy Story maybe not looking the best in the views of some people. I thought it looked fine, but I thought A Bug's Life, you're dealing with bugs. I just don't think the characters were nearly as intriguing, interesting, visually appealing as some of the other ones, especially like the circus group of performers. I didn't really gravitate towards any of them. I'll put you out of waiting. I'm going to put A Bug's Life as my first F tier. Well, see, it's between D and F. I'll put it in D tier just now because I could actually watch A Bug's Life as opposed to some of the films I think I'm going to be putting in F tier where I just don't think there's much enjoyment in them at all. I will keep A Bug's Life there for now. I might move it. Um, I just it kind of goes as Pixar's forgotten film. You obviously have Toy Story. The next one we're going to be discussing is Toy Story 2. And just in the middle of that, you got A Bug's Life, which I don't know. It was Pixar's second film, and I think it was a really good effort at that point in the franchise. You know, it wasn't a bad film at the time. I just think looking at the other films on this list, there's so much goodness to come. I don't think A Bug's Life is all that, I'm afraid. Sorry. Toy Story 2, however, the third film on this list, they decided, okay, see that first Toy Story that we made? Let's do that again, but make it even better. And that is why, in comparison to A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2 is going right back up into S tier with the original Toy Story, and it's going just above it. I'm going to try and do things even in their specific tiers that they're in the order that I prefer them. And right now, out of the three of them, Toy Story 2 is my favourite. We obviously have the Jessie montage, the Woody fixing scene, the Woody's Roundup gang. We've got Stinky Pete as a brilliant reveal as a villain. I don't remember if I predicted that as a child, but nonetheless, great villain. Voiced by Kelsey Grammer, actually. The Zurg and Buzz subplot hilarious as well. Lots of Star Wars references, which I like because obviously Pixar started out as a branch of Lucasfilm, so it would make sense that they do a lot of that. I love the deleted scenes, and I wish, the gag reels that we do at the end of the movie, I wish that they came back because we've not seen them in more recent installments. They were hilarious, filming actual scenes just to be bloopers. Yeah, great. Okay, number four. Film number four is Monsters Inc., which is another great one from Pixar. I think, yeah, I mean, it's a classic, no doubt about it. I wouldn't put it right up there with the Toy Stories. I want to put that in A tier just now, which, by the way, is still, a very good tier to be in. S tier is reserved for the absolute best of the best, which I think are perfection. And Monsters Inc. certainly does come very close. We obviously have the Silly Mike relationship, which, you could watch that expecting them to just have a big fallout, and that would be the thing in the movie of them trying to repair their relationship. And they do fall out in the movie, they do have a disagreement, but it doesn't last long and it isn't the focus. It's far more interesting to watch them as a buddy duo. Maybe that's the reason people don't like the prequel movie as much, Monsters Inc. Not Monsters Inc., Monsters University. um, Sully also gets to explore the father-daughter relationship with Boo, which is surprising, but it's also a really welcome addition. Pixar is very good at making or taking groups or species that you might not think are likable, which in this case is monsters, and which might come across as too scary, and we get another unexpected side to them. And also the score, I believe again produced by Randy Newman. Could be wrong there, but he usually does Pixar scores. Once again, slaps. So yeah, I'm going to put Monsters Inc. in the A tier. Number five, Finding Nemo. Not one that I actually watched much as a child. I think I only came across that when I was a little bit older. I don't know why that was. But it's still pretty great. I think it continues to freshen things up after that buddy duo relationship in Monsters Inc. Because we get the father-son story here in Finding Nemo. I would see nostalgia plays a big part here. Every film, well, the two Toy Stories and Monsters Inc. are ones that I watched when I was younger. Finding Nemo is not. I'm going to place Finding Nemo in. People are going to scream at me because I know there's a lot of people love Finding Nemo. I want to put that in the B tier, which, by the way, is still really good. Like I'm trying to reserve Toy Story, like the S tier for the best ones. But B tier is good. I think it's when you start going into C tier. That's when I start having issues with the film itself. But I don't remember having much with Finding Nemo. The characters are maybe not as memorable besides the main three, but that's fine because they're our focus. Nemo, Dory, and Marlin, that is. And then I love all the gang in the fish tank as well, and in the office. I love Psycho. It's one of my favorite films. So hearing the Psycho theme music it was genius. I love them when Nemo's trying to escape the tank. The seagulls attack and them not all going like mine. Brilliant, hilarious. And then again, the voice cast, especially the gang in the tank. Uh, Perfect. So yeah, Finding Nemo's going in the B tier for me. Number six, The Incredibles. And there is so much to love here. I think The Incredibles, it's not a hot take to say, it's one of the best superhero movies made of all time. A lot of people say it's a lot better than the recent Fantastic Four, which, by the way, I still love that film. First video I ever did on the channel, actually, was a review of that film. But you can see the similarities. I mean, The Incredibles and the Fantastic Four. I think the animation gets to be shown off in a superhero film like this, like to its full degree. It really gets to be shown off of what Pixar gets to show off what they're actually capable of. For me, The Incredibles is going to go in the S tier. Yeah. Yeah, I think the S tier for The Incredibles, and then I'll have to decide whether it's better than Toy Story or Toy Story 2. I would put The Incredibles at number one right now. It's not going to stay there, spoiler. Um, but when I rewatched, I was taken by surprise because I thought those two Toy Stories, I would put them over The Incredibles any day. But when I watched it, I was like, what a great film. Everything about it is just perfect. Um, Syndrome is a great villain, maybe cliche, but it's 2004, so not really. Frozone is great, and but obviously we have Edna Mode as well. Michael Giacchino delivers a brilliant score. I don't have much criticism to say about this. I mean, it's in the S tier. That goes to stand. I think we probably could have done more with Violet, but The Incredibles 2, or just Incredibles 2 for some reason, Incredibles 2 fixes that. So yeah, more was given to Dash here, but I don't have a lot of issues with this whatsoever. All right, Cars, Pixar's seventh film, 2006, and a lot of people out there go, don't like Cars is alright, it's okay, it's not as good as the others. Other people out there go, listen, Cars, top of the list for me, or near the top. Not a lot of people have it as their number one, I don't think. I remember when I shared my thoughts on this in my Pixar watch. Um, people would say that there's probably better films on the list. For me, though, and nostalgia has a massive part to play in this, apart from the fact that it is a brilliant movie. It's the S tier, and it's top of the list. It's my favorite movie of all time. Everything about it is great. It is Pixar's longest film, I believe, but that is absolutely fine with me. I don't think it wastes any time. People say, oh, it kind of slumps in the middle. No, it's not just a film about racing. It is a film about, yes, the racing part of it, but Lightning McQueen going on his own journey and going at Radiator Springs. Oh, the characters there. They could rival the Toy Story gang in terms of the best group of characters in the franchise. People will scream at me for that. But come on, like there's so many good people there. You got obviously Lightning, Mater, Flo, Lizzie, Sally, Doc, the goat that is Guido. Come on, what a great ensemble. We have the iconic Life is a Highway travel montage. As part of the music, we have Real Gone by Sheryl Crow for the opening race. We've got Our Town used for Radiator Springs, and the flashbacks we get. It's not just about racing, it's a film with a much deeper story. We've got those intense moments, but equally the film knows exactly when to slow things down and tug on the viewer's heartstrings in a range of emotional beats. Just listen, if you disagree, tell me, but it's Cars. Cars is a great film. We'll get to Cars 2. Like that. That's a different story. But Cars 1, let's leave that right there where it belongs. Number 8, I believe, yes, it is Ratatouille. And this is another one that is not one of my childhood favorites. In fact, I only watched it for the first time a few years ago during my when I did another Pixar watch. And it's only the second film in the list so far that I wasn't really looking forward to, along with A Bug's Life. I'm not sure why that was. I don't know. Maybe it was just like, I mean, you had bugs. I wasn't looking forward to that. We had rats in this one. I wasn't looking forward to that. I think it does have a little bit of a slow start. However, once it hits its stride, it really, really gets itself going. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this film. Even in sequels, Pixar tries not to repeat itself, and that couldn't be true for this Paris set story of a creature who, yeah, because he's a rat, is not the most obvious choice for a protagonist, but you go to appreciate and root for him nonetheless. For me, Ratatouille is an A-tier film. I'm going to place that up there along with Monsters Inc. I think the kitchen's good for its pleasing visuals. It's amazing animation. I like seeing all the rats doing their little thing, using all the equipment. It doesn't seem absurd. The human characters are distinct and developed as well. Everything about it just screams French cuisine. So yeah, Ratatouille is going in A-tier. Number 9 is Wall-E, which I did not like as a child. I remember watching it in school thinking it was incredibly boring, incredibly dull. Um, because, well, for around 40 minutes of the 90-minute runtime, there's just no meaningful dialogue. It's just robots on this derelict planet Earth, but that is exactly the charm. Yeah, B tier. I think, yeah, it's on the level of Finding Nemo. Again, not a bad film by any means. It's got the same kind of feeling as Groot or Grogu, where audiences are convinced to care for an effectively mute character. We have Eve, which is his new companion, and I like the relationship between them two. It does make me wonder what children now would think watching this film, obviously because attention spans are just so much lower than they used to be. And if I didn't enjoy it much as a child for that reason, I do wonder how children respond to it these days. And I know I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of people that have come around on Wall-E later in life. It also has its fans from when it came out. But I do wonder, is it a film that you appreciate more as you grow up? There is another film on this list that I think adults actually respond to or might appreciate a lot more than children do. But Wall-E, I think, certainly falls into that category. As well as that, the whole story about Earth being abandoned and humans becoming obese, lazy, um, without any real purpose, succumbing fully to technology. It's a scary thought that Pixar makes believable. So, yeah, B tier for Wall-E. Okay, number 10 is Up. And I would always give this film a 5-star rating. But in this Pixar journey that I'm doing, there's just so many good films that I have to try and separate them somehow. I think the opening sequence, if that was the only thing in the film, yeah, okay, S tier, but it's not the only thing. But that's not to say that the rest of the film is bad, because I think the opening scene is perfection, S tier, and I think the entire rest of the film is not terrible at all. I think that's A tier, and trying to weight that, I would put that in the A tier as well, probably above Ratatouille, just there between Monsters Inc. and Ratatouille at the moment. And you go through all your emotions in that first 10 minutes of the film. I think Carl Fredricksen is a brilliant protagonist. Pixar keeps things fresh because we've had toys and monsters, but we've not had an old man. So, Pixar thought, why don't we try that? And of course, it did work. I think some of the set pieces, or the main set piece of the film with the balloons on the house is a bit ridiculous. You can't take that away because that's what makes it up. It's even on the poster on this tier maker here. It's what everyone thinks about when they think of up. But Toy Story's in that universe where toys can talk. Monsters, yeah, we're in a Monstropolis, the Monster City. This is a human world. You tell me there's a flying house going about. I don't know if that works in the context of the film, but of course by the end we have the talking dogs and the house that's going on it's just, yeah, it gets a little bit insane because we're hunting, and we're also hunting for that. Is it an emu? Is that Kevin? Is that what Kevin is? Um, I don't remember. But don't get me wrong, I still love the film. And it might sound like a broken record, but the soundtrack for Up is also brilliant, along with every other Pixar film, to be honest. Yeah, I will keep Up in the A tier. Number 11, Toy Story 3. The film that most definitely has the potential to overthrow Cars as my number one film. It didn't this time round. Maybe, a couple nights after watching Toy Story 3, it was like, yeah, it's my favorite one. It's right behind it though. And if you told me that Toy Story 3 is a better film than Cars, full respect. And on certain days, I might even agree with you because it is the perfect ending to that original trilogy. I don't want to repeat myself too much because I talked about a lot of this in my Toy Story ranking, but everything about it is perfect. I love the prison break. I love how much it makes sense that we end up in Sunnyside Daycare in the first place. Lotso, not a misunderstood villain at all, purely evil, as shown by the end when he abandons the toys in that fiery inferno. They all hold hands, and the aliens come in with their brilliant save. So much to love about it. It's my favorite Toy Story film, and it deserves its spot right there in the S tier. On the opposite end, film number 12 is Cars 2. Um, that is an F tier, which I didn't realize was such. Well, I thought it was a popular opinion, and then I did my review of Cars 2 on my TikTok and the YouTube Shorts when I was doing my watch, and people were like, "No, no, no! Like, I won't tolerate the Cars 2 hate." I'm like, "What are you talking about? This film? Have you like the first Cars worked so well, brilliant film. You can see I have it in my S tier." And Cars 2 thought, hey, see that beloved side character from the first film? Let's make him the focus of a spy espionage thriller and sideline Lightning McQueen while we're at it. What? What are you thinking? The McQueen and Mater fallout is predictable. We spend hardly any time in Radiator Springs. We get some of the characters coming along as well, and yes, they all get their moment at the end when they all come in. But it's just not the film that we wanted. Cars 3, which we'll get to, is the real Cars 2 that should have happened. We have Finn McMissile and Holly Schiffwell. A lot of people seem to like Finn McMissile, but I thought he was alright. Holly Schiffwell was just, I just found her a little bit cringy in my opinion. And fan favourites like Lizzie and Mac, who had some of the most iconic voice performances I think in that first film, only have 2 lines each in this film. I don't know what the thought process was there. Cars 2 is an F tier film, and I will happily argue with anyone who disagrees with that. Okay, you can disagree if you want, but like look at the films on that list. Tell me Cars 2 is not at the bottom. Okay, next up we have Brave, film number 13. Um, Ironically, despite being Scottish myself, I don't know if you can tell that from the accent, but I was never that much attached to it. It's only the second time I've seen it. The voice cast is really good. We have Kelly MacDonald, Billy Connolly, Emma Thompson, Julie Walters, a couple others as well. I think they did really well there. The use of Scottish folk country music or Scottish folk music I thought was beautiful. For me, it's a C tier film. Yeah, I think I would place that in C tier. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. I wasn't attached to it when I was younger, but I am Scottish, so I'm going to appreciate it maybe a little bit more, even if it is very stereotypical. But I might appreciate it a little bit more than other people might. But I did think there was a lot of good emotional moments in that that definitely got me. I think Eleanor attacking Fergus and then holding back after realizing what she's done, and then Merida crying into her mum as she turns back into a human at the end of the film, with the sun shining over that repaired tapestry. I thought they were two of the standout scenes. So yeah, Brave is a C tier film for me, but maybe on another day we go down to D tier. C tier for today though. Okay, film number 14 is Monsters University, which I think is one of the most underrated films in all of Pixar. I think fair enough if the entire film was stripped of dialogue and replaced with the iconic March soundtrack that they have in the film. Okay, 5 stars, S tier. For me, I'm going to place it in the B tier, and I would place that alongside Finding Nemo and Wall-E. I would probably place it above both of those, though. I enjoyed it. I don't get a lot of the hate that goes towards it. A lot of people just say it's not as good as the original, which yeah, it's true. I mean, you can see I've got the original in the A tier and Monsters University in the B tier, but I enjoyed it. I think the opening to the film, where we've got a young Mike Wazowski on his class visit to Monsters Inc., directly connects it to the first film. We have a range of new characters as well that I really um, enjoyed. I think Pixar's really got a problem when it comes to introducing us to new characters, and again, Monsters University provides a whole new group of distinct, likable people. Um, I like Squishy. He's probably my favorite out of the new bunch. I like the scene where he's dancing in front of Silly. Also, Aubrey Plaza's in this film, so are you really going to rate this film any lower? Aubrey Plaza's amazing, so yeah, I'm giving that a B tier rating. Film number 15, Inside Out. I remember when I first watched this film, I was impressed by it, and once again, the same is true. The story itself is an effective one, but the way in which it is told, I think, is where it shines best. Pixar's created a whole new world in this film, and I admire Pixar for the narratives that they create. But Toy Story is in our world, or you've got Monsters Inc. Yes, they've got monsters, but they're still in some version of our world. Instead, it takes place mostly in our world, but they have to create this whole other environment in the construct of the mind with emotions. And I think that's such a complex environment that they communicate very well in terms of the logistics and how all of that works. To me, that is going in the A tier. It's going right at the beginning. Some people have that in S tier. I will talk about more why I don't have an S tier when we get to another film on this list, because there's another film very similar to Inside Out that I think is a little bit better and does a better job. So if I'm going to separate those two films, I'm going to have to do that now. So I'm going to keep Inside Out in the A tier. But I love it. And Amy Poehler is the perfect joy. Phyllis Smith, or sorry, I say Phyllis Vance, which is a character in The Office. Phyllis Smith is the perfect voice actress, and so is Amy Poehler for Joy. They are both the perfect voice actresses for the emotions that they portray. Phyllis Smith especially has the one and only voice that sadness requires. Film number 16 is The Good Dinosaur. I've seen it once before, I watched it again recently, and I remember it being very boring, and the same happened here. The story itself is dull, the characters are not memorable. If you ask someone to pick what their favourite Pixar film is, no one's going to say The Good Dinosaur. I would place that in the F tier, and I actually put it below Cars 2. As much as I give Cars 2 a lot of flack, Cars 2 has like momentum to it. It's, there's things that happen. Nothing happens in The Good Dinosaur. It's so boring. I like the visuals of the film. Earth's beauty shines in it, and that contrasts Wall-E massively with the abandoned Earth. I like the twist opening scene that we've got of the asteroid missing Earth. We have the infamous the stick scene where Arlo and Spot discuss their families, but it doesn't do anything. It's not even that it's doing something bad. It's not doing anything. Like, if there was a film that I would say on this list, skip, save yourself from watching The Good Dinosaur. It's a boring film. Film number 17, Finding Dory, which I'd seen before I'd watched it again last month, but for some reason I remembered nothing about it. This time I found it beautiful, enjoyable, and at times utterly ridiculous. Um, Beautiful, enjoyable because I think, you have your main setting be the ocean, which immediately lends yourself to some stunning visuals, but then we leave that pretty much immediately and go to the aquatic, whatever it's called, center that I'm forgetting the name of. What is it called? The aquatic reserve help something center. I don't remember. Finding Dory, I would place that just below Finding Nemo. I'd put that in the C tier. I'd probably place it above Brave, though. Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah. Finding Dory is better fun than Brave. The soundtrack is majestic. I think the one that opened the film alongside the more adorable young Dory helps that as well. I like the way that we link back to the first film at the start. No, kind of similar way to Monsters University, but we start off with Dory, and then we go through the events of the first film, and then it catches up to where we are in present day. I say it was a bit ridiculous because we have that infamous ending with Dory and Hank hijacking a truck and driving it into the ocean. That didn't seem plausible. I know it's a Pixar animated film, but Hank actually says, he says, I know that they're good friends of yours, but a truck is kind of a tall order, so it's self-awareness that shouldn't have happened. But I did like Dora's story in the film. I liked how she panicked when she originally lost her parents, and then we had that contrast at the end with the emotional reunion with them. So Yeah, Finding Dory, C tier film for me. Film number 18, Cars 3, and it started off very promising. I immediately fell in love with it because it ignored Cars 2 and pretended it never happened. So that is one way to win me over. We start instead by mirroring the first scene of the original film with Lightning hyping himself up with Mac there as well. We got lots of callbacks to Doc Hudson, which the rest of the film will continue to do, and his history and legacy becomes really important. Honestly, this was close to becoming an A-tier film. However, we then move on to the introduction of Cruz Ramirez, which the movie then decides she is the main character. I think that is a massive discredit to Lightning McQueen's legacy, his story. I get it, I understand all the choices made. I don't like the way it was executed. I think it's almost a sudden turn, and not in a satisfying way. That Lightning is just, after all this training and that, it's like, you know what, this is it for me. I want to train. Cruz herself is just so annoying. I mean, there's this weird rule at the end where, oh, Cruz, you won, but also so did Lightning because he was in the race. Lightning McQueen, because I don't accept that as a win for Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen has never won on camera a race, and I don't think I'm wrong about that. But yes, off camera, I think he's won the Piston Cups. But Lightning McQueen's never won a race on camera. For me, Cars 3 started off so promising. It didn't end well. I'm placing that in the D tier, and I would probably yeah, I would put it above A Bug's Life, but purely because of how strong it started. It could have been right up there, but the film just does a 180 halfway through. Not the 180 that Cars 2 did, which, is even worse. Film number 19, Coco, and I believe it's the first film on this list I had never seen before, and when I did this recent watch. It was a pleasant surprise. I did not expect it to be so good and so emotional. Coco herself having what's expected to be dementia and how she was forgetting Hector, which of course we see the repercussions of, hit me maybe more than it should have. But it was a heartbreaking thing to watch. Also, the name of the film is literally Coco, so everyone's going to remember her, which is quite a nice touch to add. I would put Coco in the A tier, and I would probably place it just above Up. Um, I think Monsters Inc. and Inside Out's probably got more rewatchability. It's the ones that I would probably go back to more. Um, but I still enjoy Coco a lot. I like the ending of the film where Coco becomes lucid and remembers Hector, thanks to Miguel and the Sound of Music. You think you know the twist in this film, but obviously that's not the case. I thought the twist at the start, it's like, okay, saw that coming, and they go, hold on, not quite. So okay, you have definitely surprised me there, and I like the film's overall message about doing whatever it takes to seize the moment and how they use that belief to fuel the actions of the film's villain as well. Coco, easily an A-tier film. Film number 20 is Incredibles 2, which, like many of Pixar's sequels or prequels, they don't often hold up as well as the original. It's not as good as the original, and it just isn't. That's just the way it is. Is it still a good film though? Absolutely it is. I would put Incredibles 2 in the B tier, and I would put it just here. Yeah, just after Monsters University. I like that we pick up right after where the first film left off. I think it's an excellent way to reintroduce the characters and see where we're at with them. Frozone gets a bigger role in this movie. Um, like the first movie as well, we have the argument of whether superheroes should be allowed to help out and have their legal status approved. It's very Captain America: Civil War in that regard. I don't mind the villain of the film. I think Screenslaver is an interesting one that I was certainly intrigued by, but I think Syndrome from the first film was superior, and that's why I've got this a little bit lower. I like that the kids came in and saved the day. We get more of Violet, which I wanted after the first film. The film also chose to wait a long time, almost an hour, before introducing us to our new side characters, but I think that was a good choice. It gives us more time with the family, re-establish our relationship with them, and develop main plot lines instead of overfilling the field. And of course, superpowers in an animated film like Pixar just makes it look like a visually stunning film. I would keep Incredibles 2 in the B tier. Okay, Toy Story 4. A lot of people refer to this one, or Toy Story, as the greatest trilogy of all time, and then they decided, let's make a fourth one. Um, I'm not as, maybe I'm about the same as where most people would place Toy Story 4. Um, for me, it's nowhere near as good as the original three. I would be placing Toy Story 4 probably in the C tier, just after Finding Dory. Um, it's still a fine film. I'd only seen it once before when it came out in cinemas years ago. There's a lot to like. We obviously have Bo Peep being more of a main character, which is nice, and we get Woody and Bo and their relationship. They do well for Bo not being much of a main character originally to show how much they did care about each other. I know we got like glimpses of it in the first few films, but they do well to show that here. The animation is the best that Pixar's ever looked, but because we have these new characters coming in and reintroduction of Bo, such as Giggle McDimples, Chick Kaboom, Ducky, Bunny, so many of our original characters are now being left at the sidelines in an RV, and that happens again in Toy Story 5. Less so in that film, and I'll get to that. But I want the main gang, Ham, Rex, Slinky, the Potato Heads. I want them up there. I know the Potato Head. It's in Mr. Potato Head in this film. Certainly, his voice actor passed away, so they couldn't really do much for him. But it's a shame that they keep having to introduce new characters, probably to sell more merchandise. That all those original people that we love so much is big a part, and that's why I've got this a little bit lower. Toy Story 3 was great at having the ensemble, having everyone do their thing, get their moment. Toy Story 4 is very much a Woody story, and the rest of them are there, but it almost feels like it's Woody, like the Woody film. It's not Toy Story 4 because the rest of them aren't there. Buzz is there for a little bit, but his whole inner voice thing is just so annoying, and I didn't care for it. It's like, oh, how can we involve Buzz? We'll have him listen to his inner voice and press the buttons on him, and that'll give him no. It's just okay. Film number 22 is Onward. It's another film that I'd not seen before. I think Tom Holland and Chris Pratt they bounce off each other really well, so casting those two in the lead roles was a smart decision. I like the object to find, or the quest to find an object quest that the two brothers go on. Um, I liked the relationship between them two throughout the film. The ending, although I understand it completely, just it took a little bit of time for me to kind of be happy with. Obviously we have Ian not get the moment with his dad, doesn't get to meet him despite the whole film wanting to do that, and I get it's because he wanted to give that moment to his brother Barley because he did know his dad and he never got to say goodbye when he actually had that opportunity. It's a bit sad that Ian never did get that moment. I know that it's because Barley was the father figure to Ian, so he filled that role for him because his dad was not around when Ian was born. But Barley was the cause of many of the problems in the movie. Let's not forget that. No, maybe that's a bit harsh. I would put Onward in the C tier, just above Brave, but just after Toy Story 4. Um, we did get to hear Julia Louis-Dreyfus again though, and I'm glad because she's in a better film than A Bug's Life, being Onward obviously, and I think she's got a better role in this film as well. So good to see her. Onward, C tier film. Okay, number 23 is Soul, which I actually did watch. One of the few more recent Pixar films that I had seen because it came out in lockdown. I don't know what drew me to it. I think I was doing my Pixar watch, but by the time I got to this one, I was like, oh, this is a new film. May as well watch this one. I wasn't watching everything at this point, but I did decide for some reason, let's watch Soul because it intrigued me. I think the voice casts are perfect for their characters. It almost feels as if they were written for those specific voice actors. Richard Ayoade as one of the five Jerrys, brilliant. You've got Tina Fey, who's comedic genius, obviously, and even Graham Norton makes a wee appearance as well. And this is the film I was on about earlier. I think is a film you probably appreciate more as an adult. It's very deep, and Joe Gardner, obviously our protagonist, gave me a bit of a reality check, reminding me to grasp every opportunity that comes my way. I would place that in the B tier, probably, yeah, probably at the end of B tier there. Again, I mentioned with Inside Out, I appreciate when they can build a world, and that obviously does happen here with Soul. I think less impressive than Inside Out, but still really well done. Um, yeah, I enjoyed Soul, and I wouldn't say a pleasant surprise because I'd seen it before, but I remember enjoying it. I think it's worthy of its spot there in the B tier. Number 24, Luca, the film that I would argue, or maybe it's personal opinion, but if you'd asked me to name every Pixar film before watching Luca, which I only did for the first time a few weeks ago, I would have forgotten it. It did not really. I didn't really. I think I'd heard of Luca, but I didn't know what it was about. It came out in 2021 when the pandemic was still happening. It didn't have much of an impact, I don't think. Partly because it's a very small scale film. It's a very simple story, and there's not a lot of stakes. But I like the small scale. I like the light-hearted adventure. I've talked about how I like the use of water, and because I just find it so interesting, like the ocean and everything in it. But Finding Nemo did that, so you can't really repeat what you've done in previous films here. So they decided to have these sea monsters that when they leave the water they adopt this human form. I thought that was an excellent hook for the narrative. I like that when Luca's parents leave as well, you think they're going to be able to find him, but obviously they're not going to be able to recognize their own son because he's got a human form. So that was cool. And Julia, I thought was a really sassy, fun character. I love her little quips, her friendship with Luca and Alberto. Yeah, Luca, for me, I would probably place in the B tier. I'm trying to decide. Hmm. I think it's better than would I watch that over Soul? Yes. Maybe no. Probably. I think I'd place that in C tier. Probably Finding Dory, Toy Story 4. Yeah, yeah. I would place it there. Which it's a fine film. It's small scale. It's enjoyable. I don't really have any problems with it. Um, it's just there. It's a nice film. If you want to stick a film on, Pixar film, nice small scale lighthearted adventure, Luca is a good choice. Okay, film number 25. We're getting to the end. It's another film that I've not seen before. I think the idea of having a girl who, at the very age of hitting puberty, turns into a red panda is a great, intriguing concept to have. Malene is a character that's not the most relatable for me, but I do recognize how she might be for other audiences. I appreciate our friend group, and I found that the four of them together were really enjoyable, especially Abby. She probably made me laugh the most. Where the film, this film gets dragged down a little bit though with the mum, and voiced by Sandra Oh, Christina Yang herself from Grey's Anatomy, of course. But she just is overly insane. She turns into this giant panda near the end of the film in this explosive, dramatic final act. I know she's controlling, but as a panda, Mei was still able to control what she was doing. Um, it was unnecessary. I think that the panda, yes, it's derived from Malin's ancestors, and it exists in the movie because it's tied to her own personal development. That charm and novelty is completely lost when you go to the end and have this giant panda battle with Four Star, the band at the concert, coming back in from the trauma that they just experienced to sing. I think does Malin not twerk at one point? The crowd returns from the trauma. It's just such a weird conclusion. I would probably place that in D tier, although I am close to placing it in F tier. But there's enough in the film, I think, that you probably can enjoy, aside from that horrible final battle that I think was completely irrelevant. Yeah, I'd probably place it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I put A Bug's Life and then Turning Red. A Bug's Life is hanging on. I thought it was going to be further down, but hey, um, it's an okay second entry. And Turning Red again, that final battle, just not a fan of. Okay, number 26, we have Lightyear, and I will not make you wait. I will tell you right now, it's going right into the F tier. It was almost the very bottom film, even below The Good Dinosaur. It's just an awful, awful execution of ideas. It's not about Buzz, it's about the Buzz, like the one from the film that apparently, allegedly, is the film that made Andy want to get a Buzz Lightyear toy because he fell in love with it. I don't think Andy Davis fell in love in the 90s with this particular film for its weird. First of all, he's an astronaut, right? He's not even a space ranger. And then we have this weird reveal of Zurg is just this older, other alternate timeline Buzz. You're telling me that's the one that Andy fell in love with? We're not even you can't even fall in love with this Buzz because it's not our Buzz that we actually know. So there's no existing character to develop, and you can't exactly have this new character be developed either because it's not our Buzz. It's not the one that we love. So why are we going to choose this guy over the one that we already know from Toy Story? I do think Chris Evans was fitting for the role. Very similar voice tone to Tim Allen. But the story itself just strays a long way from Pixar. Experimentation can be a good thing, as we've seen in other films, but I don't think time dilation and multiple timelines were particularly suited to Lightyear. So yeah, it's an F tier film. Number 27, sorry, I scrolled down a bit there. Um, in my Lightyear review just there, I talked about how experimentation doesn't always pay off. I think it does for the most part. Elemental though, it's Pixar's first ever rom-com. I wasn't super intrigued by the actual world building. The town is literally called Firetown, where the fire people live. I thought that was a bit lazy. The characters themselves, in my opinion, weren't the most interesting, nor were they the most. I didn't really appreciate the visual style of the film. I think something like Toy Story, the more classic Pixar, is something that I liked a lot more. Um, Wade really annoyed me, just the constant crying reminded me of sadness from inside out, and not in a good way. Ember did grow on me though, and I liked that after Wade's advice, she came clean on what she wants to do and went on her own journey. It wasn't what her father had lined up for her. To me, it's a D tier film. Probably the top of the D tier, above Cars 3. it could maybe on some days edge its way into the C tier. Um, the love story is very Romeo and Juliet, and that's not something we've seen before. So I really do respect Pixar for going there. I like, we've got the two feuding families trying to ignore the apparent incompatibility, or you have the two families who are feuding, but you have these two main characters, Wade and Ember, ignoring that seemingly incompatibility between fire and water. It's not one of my favorite Pixar movies, but it's also not right down at the very bottom either. As I say, it could maybe edge its way into C tier on some days. Um, I didn't mind it. It was an okay later entry Pixar film. Film number 28, right at the other end, is Inside Out 2. And the past few Pixar films have been mediocre or just okay. For me, Inside Out 2 is an S tier film, and it's going right in up the top there, just after Toy Story. We have our regular emotions back in this film, some of them voiced by different voice actors. A little bit distracting because I can tell the difference. But I like all the new emotions that come in as well. Well, actually, go back to those original emotions for a second. I like they're all in it. They're all on this journey together and trying to get back to the headquarters. So that was nice to see. But those new voice actors, the voice actors that come in and play the new emotions makes total sense for where we are in the story with Riley. Puberty has happened, which of course was teased at the end of the first film. Anxiety, perfectly cast, or Maya Hawke is perfectly cast for that role. I like that the other ones we get, so Envy, Ennui, Embarrassment, their roles that they play in the film. Joy has learned that every emotion is good for Riley, and I like that she acknowledges that at the start when anxiety actually comes in. I like the inclusion of Pouchy and Lance Slashblade. More Pouchy, but I mentioned the two of them in particular because I like how they obviously have their own distinct animation styles from the source material that they're from. And seeing that on screen alongside the Pixar style animation um, was really cool. That was really cool to see. Um, Inside Out 2, though, I just think really is a better narrative um, for compared to the original. So the puberty story with Riley, I think, is an accurate depiction that just elevates it just that little bit more than the original. If I had to choose one of the Inside Outs to watch, it would be Inside Out 2. And really enjoyed that film. I think a lot of people place that below the original, even if just so slightly. For me, it's the opposite way around. Inside Out 2 is the better film, in my opinion. Okay, we have three films left. Film number 29 is Elio. I wasn't as immersed as I was upon my first viewing. Elio was still a decent watch. I would probably place it in the D tier, and I would probably here, I think, maybe above A Bug's Life. Um, I like I like Elio as a character. I think the feeling of being alone and wanting to escape where one truly belongs is a gripping, and relatable concept for many. It's a shame that he chooses to leave the comm universe at the end of the film. I hope he still has that invitation to visit because he obviously has his new best friend there. Um, I did think the final act was a little too unbelievable. Again, we're visiting aliens. I'll accept that. We're visiting aliens, and the way that happens, I can understand. I can't understand Elio and his auntie being able to navigate through this debris and getting help from all over the world in an alien spaceship. Compare that to Finding Dory and the truck dive into the ocean that we just had recently. We had the Red Panda boss fight as well. Now we have Elio and his aunt doing that. A little bit unbelievable for me, but still an enjoyable film overall. Okay, number 30, Hoppers. Um, Enjoyable film. And surprising because some of the more recent ones, aside from Inside Out 2, were not as and as some of the more recent films were not as enjoyable, I should say. Part of that, you could point to it being the ones that I didn't enjoy much. Elemental, standalone story. Elio, standalone story. Turning Red, standalone story. Hopper's standalone story, I am going to place it right up in the B tier. Probably just before, so yeah, probably just there. Um, Again, Pixar's struggled with those original films doing well recently. Hoppers, though, did was received well by audiences, and that's because its plot and characters are enjoyable and easy to understand, and they're intriguing. I like Mabel as the main character, the ability to transfer her mind into a robotic beaver and communicate with all the animals that she adores, who are constructing a highway over their land that's going to be destroyed. Great, great story. I like Mabel's motivation a lot, and the way she does it through her appearance as a beaver is a fun concept. maybe in that final act again, it's becoming a recurrent trend. I found the robot mayor a little bit too jarring. I wasn't a fan of the way that that went, but the ending by the end does manage to stick the landing. There's obviously the other twist in the movie with the dramatic and sudden killing of the Insect Queen, which of course is voiced by Meryl Streep. Massive turn of events. But I really enjoyed Hoppers. You know, it's right there in the B tier, so it's one that I would not be mad at all if I was watching a movie one night and we decided to stick that one on. Final film on the list is Toy Story 5, and recency bias is probably going to have a lot to do with this. So if I was to do this film again in a year's, or this video again in a year's time, strong likelihood maybe it would go down. But for now, I'm going to place Toy Story 5 in the A tier, just here, somewhere in the middle. I found Toy Story 5 to be enjoyable. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself too much because I've done a review of the film and I've just ranked all five of the Toy Stories. So I'd be saying the same thing for the third time. But enjoyable film. Inclusion of tech was a great idea to have. Much better than Toy Story 4. Sad that we sidelined a lot of the main characters that we know from the first three films. Still, really enjoyed it. And, you know, there was talk of a Toy Story 6 coming. Don't know how they're going to do that because, again, this film felt like another ending, especially for Jesse's character. I don't know. I'm glad that we got Jessie as the main protagonist, though. I think that was long overdue, given when she was introduced in Toy Story 2, she's had less and less to do as the films go on. But you know, overall, an enjoyable film and a massive improvement from Toy Story 4. And that is it. That is my tier ranking for all 31 Pixar films. I didn't actually realize. Look how almost even they are. I mean, you've got more or less the same amount. I mean, there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Um, you know, that's a pretty spread list. I don't have it all very top heavy. I think I think it's a pretty decent list actually. So I'm happy with where everything ended up. Please let me know what is your ranking. Let me know. You can fill out the tier ranking that I've linked in the description. Let me know in the comments below. Again, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. Comment, like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.